investor friends, I'm Michelle Markey and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, it would mean a lot to me in the YouTube algorithm if you could please like and subscribe to my video and YouTube channel, because today I'm going to be sharing the insights and wisdom from Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan Chase, where at the Sanford Bernstein 30th Annual Strategic Decisions Conference on June 1st, 2022, Jamie dropped the mic on delivering this masterclass about banking and also a warning about bracing yourself for the impending economic hurricane coming, and also serving up some soup du jour of banking acronyms. And also, if you live on the East Coast like I do, hurricanes can either be no big deal or they can be a really big deal like Superstorm Sandy was, and you're lucky if you can escape from the destruction. So imagine what an economic hurricane is like, and it's probably all the bad things you can imagine, where he said that consumers have about 6 to 9 months worth of spending, which would put a recession right around March 2023. So brace yourselves for sure. And I'm probably biased, but I think that Chase has got a pretty decent slate of consumer products when Jamie said,
we already have a huge share of Gen Z and millennials. And, they like our product, like our service, they like our Sapphire card.
And also Jamie Dimon said that a company can be protected from a downturn by having a fortress balance sheet and also protecting customers. So I appreciate Jamie Dimon's candor in the following of what I'm going to share of what he said. And I haven't done this before, but I'm going to match Jamie's audio with the transcript of what he said so it can really sink in the economic lessons we can take away from Jamie and also prepare ourselves for what could be coming. And not that it's a big deal, but I briefly hung out with Jamie Dimon at the Berkshire Hathaway Omaha annual meeting. So I think that was pretty fun, and not that I really know Jamie, but let's listen to what he said.
I mean, what protects a company in a downturn is, first of all, you're prepared. That, we always talk about through the cycle. So we acknowledge when we're over earning on credit and that's going to normalize. We're quite clear about that. And that might be $3 billion to charge us more a year. And we have to prepare for things like CECL and AOCI and downturns and all that. But your best preparation is that fortress balance sheet. It's conservative accounting. We don't have not a lot. We have almost no one-time gains or losses. Our MSR, even when you look at MSR, that's conservative too, because there's very little FHA service in there. When things go bad, FHA servicing is very expensive when the delinquencies hit 5 or 10%, which is guaranteed to happen in a downturn. And it's the same with, if you look at our real estate portfolios, the ones you worry about are mostly Class A, fully leased up, no spec, all these various things, which is hard to look at, but that protects you. And those margins, when things get bad, we'll still have margins, but still be making money. And the reason we want to do that is so we can serve clients in the toughest of times. And we have plenty of capital, plenty of balance sheet. There's a lot of capital uncertainty because we still don't know SCB. We don't know if there'll be any adjustments to GSIFI, which we're not counting on. We did some acquisitions, which took away from some buyback capability. Though, I much prefer to do really smart acquisitions and stock buyback. You may not like that so much sometimes because you want consistency and all that. But so yeah, we'll be a fortress balance sheet in the next go around too. And we're quite concerned about the environment. So, I try to separate for the analyst committee right now, if you have a benign environment, like you all have forecasts, which in your forecast, well, that's your forecast, that's a benign environment. I don't know what it's going to be like by the end of the year. I'm prepared for a non-benign environment by the end of the year. So, to me, we try to explain all that as best we can. And I think it's important we do that. Mm-hmm. But we will be prepared for bad outcomes. I'm going to change the storm clouds because I said there are 3 things that we're going through, which are, I hate the word unprecedented, which are kind of unprecedented. And you got to put this in the back of your mind. When you've seen things that have never happened before, then you have to question your ability to predict, okay? One is huge growth in this country driven by fiscal and monetary stimulation. That isn't a normal recovery, okay? And that fiscal stimulation is still in the pocketbooks of consumers. They're spending it. They're spending at very strong levels. And the data is completely distorted. It's distorted by inflation. It's distorted by, they went from goods back to services. It's distorted by all these things, but jobs are plentiful. Wages are going up. Consumers are spending. The lower income folks, not quite as much as before, but everybody else, it looks like they have $2 trillion more. Savings rate drop. I don't think that's going to stop their spending the 6 or 9 months. And so that to me is the bright clouds out there. But it's different. The Fed has to meet this now with raising rates and QT. And the new part of this isn't the raising rates, it's the QT. The QT we've never had QE before like this. Therefore, we've never had QT like this. So you're looking at something they're going to be writing history books on for 50 years. What was QE? What worked? What didn't work? I think a lot of parts of QE backfired. I think the negative rates was probably a huge mistake for a whole bunch of different reasons I won't bore you with now. But they're going to have to raise rates. And in my view, they have to do QT. They do not have a choice because there's so much liquidity in the system. They have to remove some of the liquidity to stop the speculation, to reduce home prices, stuff like that. And you've never been through QT. So all the major buyers, if you go back to 2010 and say, who are all the major buyers of treasuries? All that time, it was central banks, foreign exchange managers, banks who were topping up their liquidity profiles because we had to for regulations. All three, it won't happen the go round. Banks are topped up, foreign exchange managers are topped up, the central bank will be selling, not buying, and governments have much more fiscal deficit to finance. That's a huge change in the flow of funds around the world. I don't know what the effect of that is. I'm prepared for, I tell you, a minimum huge volatility. And the third thing is Ukraine. Okay, you've not had a European land war since 1945. Okay, and the complexity of Ukraine is we don't know the outcome. I always make a list, if you predict the outcome, well, you couldn't predict the outcome of Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, 10 other conflagrations. All wrong. Wars go bad. They go south, they have unintended consequences, and this happens to be roiling the commodity markets of the world. Wheat, oil, gas, and stuff like that, which in my view will continue. We're not taking the proper actions to protect Europe from what's going to happen in oil in the short run, and we're not taking the proper actions to protect you all what's going to happen to oil in the next 5 years, which means it almost has to go up the price. We're not investing enough money, to keep oil a number. And for all those who love climate change, if oil prices go to 175 or 150, which I kind of think is in the cards to tell you the truth, not in the immediate run, but down the road, then CO2 won't go down, which is everyone predicts because people buy less oil and gas. It's going to go up because all those other countries out there, the poor countries who need oil and gas to feed and heat their citizens, will not buy oil and gas, they'll buy coal. That's what's going to happen. CO2 will go up, it won't come down. And we're not dealing with these challenges. So those three things, fiscally induced growth, QT, Ukraine war. So I'm going to change the storm clouds out there because I'm an optimist. I said there's storm clouds, they're big storm clouds. It's a hurricane. Right now it's kind of sunny, things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way. We just don't know if it's a minor one or Superstorm Sandy Sandy or Andrew or something like that. And you better brace yourself. So JPMorgan is bracing ourselves, and we're going to be very conservative in our balance sheet with all this capital uncertainty. We're going to have to take actions, and I kind of want to shed non-operating deposits again, which we can do in size, to protect ourselves so we can serve clients in bad times. And so that's the environment we're dealing with. And I think it's okay to hope that'll end up okay. I hope it. That's my Goldilocks. I hope. Who the hell knows? The banking industry is in great shape, and credit cycles follow a norm. Okay, and even in the great financial recession, it followed a norm with a couple of little exceptions. Mortgages, there was $1 trillion actually to be lost. We all woke up sometime in 08 or 09 and said, my God, it's $1 trillion. And it was everywhere. It wasn't derivatives, no. It was in CLOs, it was in banks, it was in insurance companies, but that caused panic because people woke up, and the investors, and they said, my God, it's everywhere. What do? You sell. So it was panic selling and stuff like that. And I think you may see that again, by the way, too, because I don't think that banks can intermediate in the markets that we're used to. So when all this liquidity gets run down, we're going to hit a wall. And then when that wall gets hit in terms of intermediation, you're going to see very volatile markets again. And no one's going to be able to step in other than the Fed, which maybe they can't do this time. So, but the credit cycle follows a norm normally, and that's the minimum you should expect. And we've shown people, credit card, it's all-time lows today, but in the Great Recession, it peaked at 10%. We would have told you before that 8%. So we were off, but not that much. What surprises people is It won't be mortgage this time. It won't be, we don't see it there. It might be something in the private credit markets. You heard Archegos. I mean, when things happen, someone will get hurt somewhere. And sometimes it's industries you just least expect. And so you have to be very careful in that. Like in the 00s, it was telecom and utilities, the ones that were the most stable. You know, in 07, 08, it was Warren Buffett newspapers. I mean, so there's underlying changes in credit you have to be very careful about. Very hard to spot. And therefore, the discipline is you never put all your eggs in one basket. You're very careful, no matter how people think real estate or something like that. And so anyway, you will have a normal credit cycle. Charge-offs will go up. We'll still be earning money. CECL makes it very volatile. You know, like I think I pointed out Investor Day, we put up in 2 quarters, so the first quarter of 2020, the second quarter, $15 billion of CECL. And then the next 4 quarters, we took it down. I mean, I know what kind of accounting that is. I think it's crazy. I don't know who invents this shit, but we have to deal with it regardless. And in 2023, remember, if a severe recession starts, you know, sometime in 2023, inflation, you know, wage inflation can go to zero, like literally overnight. So we said 17% is what we expect to earn through the cycle, and we have. You know, and if you have a recession, well, it won't be 17. You know, it'll be something lower. You know, like that's life. Do the calculation that if JPMorgan earns 17% in capital and grows at 7% a year, for how many years does it take before we're 50% of the GDP of the United States of America? I mean, I would take 17% all day long. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, you all don't earn 17% on your capital. I mean, the worst thing a CEO can do to a company is have this ABC, arrogance, bureaucracy, or complacency. If you put your head in the sand, you die. I think that I'm just trying to note that. I think JP Morgan's in pretty good shape. I think the competition is going to be brutal and fun to watch. And I think there'll be a lot of losers in it too, by the way. So is that systemic? I don't know. There's a lot of leverage lending out there. Will someone get hurt? Probably. Will that credit dry up in that segment of the market? Probably. Are there other things we see out there that are particularly bad? No, but we have this little report we have called shadow banking. And you put it all together, from repo to money market funds to commercial paper to CLOs to, mortgage banking. The mortgage businesses have moved away from banks for good reason. And so you're going to see this stuff is going to get worse if the markets get tighter and, liquidity dries up a little bit. We will be prepared for it, and so should you if you were smart.
And so my key takeaways from Jamie are that even though it looks sunny outside, it's probably the calm before the storm, because he thinks that a lot of quantitative easing or money printing has backfired on the American economy, because he believes that the Federal Reserve doesn't have much of a choice but to raise interest rates as part of quantitative tightening to fight high inflation. And also, even though he didn't elaborate on why he thinks negative interest rates were such a huge mistake, I think that it's part of because there's been a lot of cheap money that fueled corporate debt and leveraged lending, which led to unsustainable growth initiatives across all asset types. And there will probably be a reckoning and a reversion to the mean at some point. So as a bank captain of the JPMorgan Chase ship, Jamie Dimon is battening down the hatches and trying to prepare the ship for an economic superstorm and also minimum to huge volatility in the markets. And so if you take away nothing else, the 3 main things that he said we're going through, which are unprecedented, include how we've had pretty much nonstop quantitative easing since the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009, and also the pandemic recession, and now the Ukraine war, and also quantitative tightening now. And I like Jamie Dimon because he's not only buddies with Warren Buffett, but he also tells it like it is. So I'm trying to get prepared, and I hope you are too. And go listen to Jamie Dimon talk about this some more on the JPMorgan Chase Investor Relations page. And also you can probably listen to this on some YouTube videos. So definitely give Jamie Dimon a listen some more, and his full talk that was about an hour long. And I hope that will help you too. And if you enjoyed this video or learned something, please like and subscribe. And I wish you well on getting through this economic hurricane and making it out on the other side with your wealth not only intact, but also in a position to grow your wealth. Till next time.